We're going to move on now to an interesting topic. Why Liechtenstein? Why did it make this decision to legalize blockchain? And what is the process that goes into it? Because this comes with a cost. It always does. It creates more work, creates more time, potentially even more headaches, but the return, well, it's the risk versus the reward. Our next speaker, Dr. Thomas Dünser, is going to come tell us why Liechtenstein decided to make this transition and how it has impacted it in a positive way. Let's bring him up now.
Thank you. Wow, still 5 people, huh? We were guessing how many people are interested in this topic at the end, but it's good that you're here, and I think just make a relaxed review of the last 10 years to discuss that. So, oh, wow, my wonderful presentation and animation is working, but so if you look back to the last 10 years, I mean, the interesting thing is, so the genesis block of Bitcoin was in 2008. Who was into crypto in 2008? Haha. But who was in 2009? Nobody. Who was in 2010 was the first crypto exchange? You were, Thomas? Okay. It was Mt. Gox. And so the first ICO was in 2013, and the ICO of Ethereum was 2014. So you see the pace of events, of important events in the crypto space was quite fast. And to my opinion, the regulatory compliance discussion started in 2014 when Ethereum came to Switzerland, to Zug, and wanted to find a way how to conduct an ICO in a regulatory compliant manner. And this was the breakthrough for this wave of ICO that came also to Liechtenstein. And afterwards, you have the DAO, and now we are talking about general DAOs and so on. So, and the ICO wave was here. When we came, in that time, the first projects came to Liechtenstein. So it was, and there were many fundamental questions, like, is an ICO possible in Liechtenstein? What are the regulatory requirements? What is the legal treatment of Bitcoin and Ether? What is a token? How are the financial market laws applied and the due diligence laws applied? Many open questions, including tax questions. Oh, sorry, I stand here so you see it better. And in the meantime, the public perception or public awareness increased. And for fun, I just made a Google research on the news with the topics crypto and scam and crypto frauds and crypto AML. And interestingly, I mean, the challenges of fraud and scams and money laundering was there all the time. But in 2018, the number of news that can be researched on Google just exploded, just exponential curve. So like money laundering or why hackers use Bitcoin. 80% of ICOs in 2017 were scams. So, but this was not the perception we had in Liechtenstein. But of course, there is a risk, and we needed to do something. If we allow this development to happen, we also need to consider the other side of this of the medal. So the first request came about in 2015-16. We had, for the ones that know, we have introduced the concept of the Innovation Club, so a governmental process to foster innovation. So we had the first ideas to come in to improve our legal framework and what the states can do from a blockchain perspective in 2016. And in 2016, we then decided to start a working group about blockchain potential and the risks of blockchain. It was in November. And then one of the outcome of this working group was the idea of the TVTG, of the Blockchain Act, which was entered into force in January 2020. So this was kind of, we see how the innovation process in the Liechtenstein framework is working, and it takes time until a new innovation just is in the pipeline, and we see some outcome. And what we see today, this conference, and the huge number of projects and companies, and also people from authorities has come together and exchange their thoughts, is also one outcome of this pipeline. I would say it's just, but it takes about 7 years. And this is for a government environment. This is fast. So when we started to think about blockchain and the potential and the risks of blockchain, we have seen the vision of tokenization at the time. And of course, the vision of coins was there. It was obvious. It was just the things that we have seen every day. But we have also seen the potential of tokenization of real estate, of physical art, of digital art, precious metals, and shares and bonds and everything. So this was one vision we tried to include in our regulation. Another vision we included, and for those that were part of this process, you might remember those funny graphics we included in the report and application to the Parliament. It was a vision of a new financial system based on crypto. So it was about digital payments and company financing and issuance of new tokens, trading, asset management. So and this kind of vision is still not in reality in a fully manner. So we also in that time in 2016 we kind of were 2 or 3 steps ahead of the market, I would say. But here you see kind of the vision of this tokenized financial market, like you have a wallet and the asset manager, traders, kind of a decentralized infrastructure for the financial sector. DeFi, in short. If you're interested in more details about the vision of the token economy based on financial markets, I have introduced a chapter in my latest book about this vision, how this is composed in detail. So it goes a bit further than the report and application that we presented to the Parliament. But we included, and this is something that was not, I mean, our vision was further than most of the people thought at the moment. But the financial sector was kind of the standard. Is a standard model or the application of tokenization. But we have seen that the potential of tokenization is far beyond financial sector. So it's also about the non-financial sector. And this was the vision of the token economy, so that many objects are tokenized, that we have many persons are included. We have this is also a picture of the report and application. That's the reason why it's so funny. Patterns there. It was a copy of the PDF that is on the governmental homepage. But we have also seen the potential of machines and companies tokenized. So this is the Internet of Things, Web 3, all those visions that are now discussed. We have included that in our vision of the regulation. And so at the end, this here, Internet of Things and Metaverse. So this is we try to create the fundament for those applications that we see now. And so for us, it was a normal government or a regulator had a look at Bitcoin and said, okay, this is weird kind of a virtual asset. That does not make any sense. We have our currencies. So it's more a threat to our financial system. But because of this vision of tokenization, of the token economy, of the crypto finance, we said, okay, this is a huge chance to be part of this development, and it's necessary to have an open, innovation-friendly environment. So, and the innovation, we started from a governmental perspective on this way, because we have seen the pace of innovation is so high in the financial sector. It's driven by digitalization, and this is. The blockchain is one part of this digitalization stream of fintech we have seen since the end of the 90s, starting with PayPal, I would say. And blockchain is one fundamental game changer we have seen at the point of time. So it dissolves fundamental constraints of fintech applications at that time. So if you consider the most popular application at the time was a crowdfunding application. So it was the hype at that time was 2010, 11 until 14. So that's crowdfunding was possible, and it was. But the crowdfunding application had to base on the financial system, so that they need banks for credits, they need banks for payments, and so on. And with the invention of blockchain and Bitcoin, they were not necessary anymore. So a huge breakthrough for innovation in the time appeared by blockchain. So we have seen that blockchain is one major innovation driver in the financial sector, of course, and the future architecture of the financial system is designed in the coming years. And if you know the economy of Liechtenstein, you see that the financial center is not the most important part of the economy. So the industry is more important with about 45% of the GDP, but the financial sector is about 25% or 20, depends how you count, of the GDP. So it's important that the financial sector survives, and if innovation happens so in a fundamental manner, we risk that the financial center of Liechtenstein loses its importance just because this development is not possible in Liechtenstein. So we had a kind of a motivation to introduce this innovation framework and to have a proactive, innovation-friendly environment for the financial center. Of course, it's a long-term perspective. It's not. We didn't say that the financial center is at an end in 2 years or 5 years. But yeah, just considering the term of 10, 20, 30 years, this is a threat to a standardized financial system. So, and to enable intermediaries to be innovative in a highly regulated system, we need a kind of a regulatory clarity. So, because the financial market usually is the opposite of innovation, because you have strict rules, you have enormous, dense kind of regulation framework, and if you want to be innovative, you need first fundamental clarity of what they are doing there, so like a civil law fundament, and also the possibility that innovation is possible. So, and this was the reason why, yeah, okay, and at the point, in 2016, we had a regulatory framework which was not really clear. So there was no legal concept for a token. So if somebody wants to tokenize something, there was no legal fundament. Even if you own Bitcoin, it was not clear what happens if they are stolen. It's not the proper legal term, but you know what I mean. So we had a lot of legal uncertainties. So, and especially the topic of the application of existing financial market regulation was a challenge. So if you don't know, we have financial market regulation that is made for the old system, and now the new system comes and thousands of new forms of applications are there, and it was not clear if they are applicable or not. And in the case we decided that the laws are applicable, it was the end of story of this innovation. So this was the trade-off at the time. And one challenge was that we are used to have an instrument regulation. So we have financial instruments, and this is the reason why one application falls under the financial market laws. And with tokens, it was possible to have the same instrument in multiple use. You can have a token that is used for payment purposes. You can, as a means for payment. You can have a token that is used as a means of investment, and so on. And so this complexity increased with the introduction of tokens. And so we needed to do something just to create a proper fundament for a token economy. And from a governmental perspective, we had kind of 3 options. So we had option 1, option A is the passive approach, just wait and see. Option B was to have a restrictive approach to say, no, this is not possible. until we have a proper regulation. And the option C would be we try to clarify those fundamental questions that are open and hinder innovation at the time. Option A is, to my opinion, a no-go because it does not solve any problem. So we still have the regulatory uncertainty. It's hindering the compliant innovation. And I'm talking of compliant innovation because it's different. But what we see in the last years in the fintech innovation ecosystem is that innovation always happens in a far faster development in the unregulated sector. So if some project is not asking about the compliance of the law, they just can do it and they can show that it's working. As soon as they start to ask a regulator if it is possible, there is that it's not possible. And we have seen in the last years that this compliant regulation is the most challenging situation. So, and the risks are not addressed because the new applications have new risks, and we have no legal fundament for a token economy. The option B, the restrictive approach, is maybe a bit better because we have regulatory certainty that it's not possible, but then we risk that the financial center is not taking part of this development. So the option C was the only reasonable option at that time. So just to have a fast step forward to have regulatory certainty, that is supporting innovation, that the risks are properly addressed, and we have a legal fundament for the token economy. And of course, we choose option C. Would be a good joke to say, of course, we choose option A. Next time I should take this one. Okay, and the Blockchain Act we have created is just, I don't cover this topic of the Blockchain Act further because you should know about that maybe, or it's another presentation. But what we did is we have the civil law fundament, and this is still, I think, 1 or 2 steps ahead of all other jurisdictions I know, because it's the fundament for Web3, for Metaverse, and so on. We introduced the supervision of service providers, which was important to make clear who is regulated and who is not regulated, and also to have a fundament for the application of AML laws and due diligence laws. And one important thing was also the introduction of the uncertificated rights, so the digital shares and digital bonds that are possible on blockchain, so that we have a proper fundament for digital shares and digital bonds in Liechtenstein. So this was the things we did at that time. And just to recover why we did that. So we wanted to secure the future prosperity and attractive jobs, provide an attractive framework conditions for innovative companies in the financial center. And so I told you that, so you can just reread. So, but what we tried to do, and this was also kind of an innovation, is the way how we have written a law, because we have seen that in the old way to write a law, it was so it's rule-based and it's regulating business models in a time of innovation. It's not possible to regulate business models because you don't know which kind of business models are there in 2 years and 3 years. So you risk, if you do a regulation, you risk that the regulation is old-fashioned and not useful, or hindering the innovation if you do it the old-fashioned way. So we introduced a principles-based regulation instead of a rules-based regulation. And in practice, this is a huge challenge for a system like we have, every country has with regulators, and because the regulators now have to decide how those principles are applied in practice. So they need to develop kind of guidelines and an understanding of each application of blockchain if it's compliant with those principles. So you need to educate also the supervisors and the authorities to be able to cope with this kind of regulation. But to my opinion, it's still the only way to regulate in an innovation intensive environment. Then the question of tech neutrality was important. So at that time we have seen Bitcoin, blockchain, Ethereum, but we did not know what kind of blockchains or what kind of transaction system appeared in the next years with different kind of setup, and we tried to find a technology neutral form of regulation. So this is the reason the law is called, we talk of TT systems and the TT service providers, so it's trustworthy technologies, and we tried to find a neutral way to describe the things that blockchain is providing to us. If you read that, it seems to be a bit strange because it's not easy to understand. It's also one part of a challenge to translate that in the practical applications. But with that, up to now, we did not see any application that is outside of this of the scope of regulation. And we have many approaches, other approaches to define the blockchain in a legal manner, which are not really innovation friendly. So this is, I'm still convinced that we have chosen a good way to do that. Another important innovation was that we did not do any token classification. So the standard way at that time was to say, is it a financial instrument or a utility coin or a payment token? But we said if we introduce a classification, we risk that another form of token that we cannot include in this classification is just outside of regulation. So, and it's not really meaningful to just to have a look at those applications we see at that time. So we said we introduced a general token concept. It's just every token is covered, you know, and this was also the idea of the token container model, that the tokenization has no legal effect. So, because other jurisdictions have the idea that tokenization something means that a financial instrument is created, or a security is created, and this means that the securities laws and all tax laws that are related are applied to those kind of tokens, or to all of tokens. And this is not really meaningful because then some applications of the token economy are not possible in practice. So, yeah, and this was kind of the setup we have chosen from a legislating perspective. The goals and the purpose of the Blockchain Act still sounds actual or current. So we have, our goal was to protect the users because up to now they were kind of in a unprotected environment, which is not mandatory bad, but it's in that time it was important to create this protection so that service providers are liable for what they're doing. That is clear that they have to provide some minimal standards in what they're doing for clients. So, and one important goal was also to secure the trust in the digital transactions. So, and this was the part of the civil law fundament. So that without a proper civil law fundament, the tokenization of anything is not possible. You need to define what happens if you transfer a token with a related asset and so on. And this was also very important. So at the end, it was, I mean, to create a law is always a kind of a policy or economic policy question. So it means you have to decide if you want this innovation or if that happens in that field, or if you don't want that. And we decided to allow this innovation. And so from an economic policy perspective, it was a balance between regulation and innovation friendly. And this was also important. It's not a regulation that was there to reduce all the risks to a zero level, because then innovation was not possible. I promised Otto that I finish on time. Would be he wanted 1 beer per second, so it was. No, so our learnings in the meanwhile, I mean, it was a process for the whole system of Liechtenstein, and it was a very interesting process, and we saw many ideas that we have introduced at the time with the blockchain were true and were a good idea to do that, but it was for all parts of the ecosystem, it was not an easy way to implement that. But it was also a way that all parts of the ecosystem learned a lot about the technology and about the legal parts of the technology, and so this increased just the knowledge level dramatically from all members of the ecosystem. So it was a good decision to do it like that. So 4 seconds. So Otto is not here. So just the last slide about the future challenges, because the questions we have discussed from a strategic level in 2016 are the same now. We have other challenges. We have the question of decentralized finance. We have the question of decentralized autonomous organizations. We have the questions of artificial intelligence. It's not blockchain related. And also the next step in the development of the token economy, and also the separation of token economy and the financial market regulation is a very challenging topic. So we need to go on this journey. If we want that innovation take place in a jurisdiction, we need to find a proper way to do that, to have a proper balance between the legal certainty and the innovation friendliness. So thank you very much for your attention. The next speaker is Otto with a new innovation that is based also on the Blockchain Act. So thank you very much. I hope it was interesting.